What makes a game successful? I recently had a little crisis with my game because I figured out it was not as good as I thought it was. There were a lot of issues with it. That's what got me to think, what makes a good game, what makes a successful game, which factors are actually important, and I came up with a couple of them and I want to share them with you today. Okay, here we go. Here are the factors I came up with. It needs to be easy to learn with a tutorial, and it also needs to be easy to understand without a tutorial just from watching the game. It needs to be difficult to master, it needs to have a high skill ceiling. Then a cool fantasy, something like controlling an army, being a really powerful warrior, skydiving, parachuting, whatever. Those are all really cool fantasies. Maybe even something like being a doctor, being a cook, being a nurse. Those are all cool fantasies or exciting fantasies people have, and if you can deliver to those fantasies, that's a big plus for your game. Appealing graphics is really important for getting any traction for your game, because people see screenshots and video footage of your game online, and if they don't look good, they're not gonna be interested. It needs to create crazy, funny and exciting moments, because if that's the case, people will talk about it with their friends, they will share it, and it's also more entertaining to watch, so it's more streamable, more watchable, more shareable. Then if it has any way of encouraging social behavior, that's also a big plus, because as I've said, if people talk about the game, if they can play it together, if they want to play it together, if they want to bring in friends into the game, that's obviously a big plus that helps you to get some traction. It needs to differentiate itself from the mass, it needs to be different, it needs to feel different, it needs to be fun and flowy, and it also needs to be motivating. So pretty obvious. Now what I did is I looked at my game Oversnover and scored all of those values. So how easy to learn is it with tutorial? Relatively easy, 70%. So that's a relatively good score. Easy to understand just from watching somebody play? Not so good. Only gets 20%, and you can see here the biggest weaknesses are at the moment it doesn't create any funny, crazy, exciting moments. It's not all that motivating. It's not easy to understand just from watching somebody play. And then it also doesn't encourage any social behavior or any sharing or anything like that. And then in the end, what I did here with the success score, I just multiplied all of those values together, because honestly, that's how I think it works. If you have a 0 in any one of these fields, that probably means you're doomed to fail. If your game's not motivating, if you have a 0% here, then your score will also be 0. And I think all of those factors really multiply. The only one I'm not really sure about is difficult to master, high skill ceiling. I think you can make a game that gets away without this. Yeah, maybe you can also make a game that gets away without a cool fantasy or without appealing graphics. But in general, I think those things all multiply together and they improve each other. So if you have a game that does all of those things correctly, it's gonna be a really good game. It's not the end-all, be-all system to determine if a game's gonna be good, but for now, I think it's a relatively solid framework that can give me at least a rough idea what I need to work on, what I need to fix. And actually, I did the same thing with a game that some friends of mine created, Superflight. Maybe you've heard about the game. It has been relatively successful. And I tried to score all of those factors for Superflight. It's way easier to learn, it's way easier to understand just from watching. It's really difficult to master. It has a cool fantasy because you're flying in a wingsuit. It has really appealing graphics. It creates crazy, funny, exciting moments when you pull something off or when you find a really cool world. It kind of encourages social behavior because you can share seeds with your friends and share the world. It definitely differentiates itself from the mass because there's nothing like that out there. It's very flowy and fun, and it's also very motivating. Therefore, it has a very high success score, way higher than Oversnover. And I did the same with Sniffy, one of my older games. As you can see, it already does a lot better than Oversnover, but also not all that much. And I did the same thing for StarCraft, and StarCraft also scores really, really highly. There are a lot more factors that play into the success of a game. This is just a rough estimation, more or less a model that kind of explains what's going on, why something works and why something doesn't work. I think it's a relatively solid model that explains what's going on. And obviously when you multiply values like this, you can see really easily what you need to work on next. The easiest way to maximize this number down here is to work on the numbers that are really low at the moment. So I need to find a way to create crazy, funny, exciting moments in my game. I need to find a way to make my game more motivating. I need to find a way to encourage social behavior and sharing. And I need to find a way to make it easier to understand just from watching it. Because if we fix all of those values here, if you get all of those values to 90, let's see what happens then. As you can see, then I'm already way higher. I'm already at 60,000. And yeah, I really like doing hypothetical math like that. I know it's not accurate. I know it doesn't mean anything at all. It's just interesting to think about what makes a game successful, what are the biggest success factors. This is not the end. I'm just starting to figure this out. I think those are really important factors. You need to get them right if you want to make a good game. I think it's actually pretty important to think about what makes a successful game, what makes a game take off, and I haven't really done that before, so I don't even know why. It's kind of important to think about it if you think about it. So I hope you found this interesting. Do you agree with my list? Do you disagree with my list? What are your thoughts to this? What makes a successful game? What makes a good game? What makes a game take off? What gets a lot of players to your game? Which factors do you think are most important? Let me know in the comments. Other than that, I want to thank you all for watching. Have an amazing day and see you in the next one. Peace.